Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Tropical storm watch still in effect for Jamaica. Bull Bay family counting their losses. And later in sports, Reggae Boys take on Canada in Nations League qualifier. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. The National Works Agency says a number of roads have been impacted by fallen trees and land slippages due to the heavy rains. Communication Manager at the NWA, Stephen Shaw, now joins us live on telephone. Thank you for joining us, Stephen.
Hi, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Yes. Now, between last night and this morning, there have been several road blocks and land slippages. Now, have these been cleared as yet? And if not, is there a timeline?
We have not been able to clear many of the areas. It's a combination of flooding and debris flow that would have been impacting these corridors. We have mobilized and we have been attempting to get especially the arterial network functional. But there are challenges because it continues to rain right across the country and especially in those areas where we have the challenges. And the parishes that we're speaking to at this time are Portland, St. Thomas, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine to a certain extent.
Now, give us an idea of the main problem in these areas across the island.
All right, so in Portland, we have blockage impacting the Fellowship to Berrydale Road, so to that from Wakefield to Hardware Gap. We have the road from Nonsuch to Port Antonio also being impacted. The road to Golden Grove over there too is also being impacted. That's in Portland. In St. Andrew, the road from from Cooper Ridge to Guava Ridge, that one is impassable at Guava Ridge and at Violet Bank. We also have things impacting the Golden Spring Main Road. We have issues in St. Catherine to include the Point Hill Road, the road to Above Rock. These are being impacted by fallen trees and landslides. The Bog Gorge remains closed. The Spanish Town to Port Henderson Road, that's Bernard Lodge Road, is under a lot of water in a section. And so we are advising that operators of small vehicles not attempt to use this particular corridor at this time. In St. Thomas, the Bethel to Richmond Gap Road is now cut off. There was a landslide, there was a breakaway that had reduced it to single lane. It has deteriorated significantly, so that road at Richmond Vale is no longer passable.
Stephen, as we wrap now, when we look at it, the Met Service says that we should expect more rains later this afternoon as the system passes over Jamaica. Will the NWA put the necessary resources in place in case of floods and landslides?
Well, we do have a standing plans that will kick in when and if the need arises. So we do have the situation covered to the extent that we can respond in a safe way, because the safety of our officers and our stakeholders also stand paramount in all of these things.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen Shaw.
Thank you.
Now, a tropical storm watch remains in effect as the large area of disturbed weather continues in the vicinity of Jamaica. Now, this means that tropical storm conditions continue to pose a possible threat to the island. A flash flood warning is also in effect for low-lying and flood-prone areas of southern and eastern parishes, including Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Mary. Now, a flash flood watch remains for other low-lying and flood-prone areas of the island. At 10 a.m., potential tropical cyclone number 22 was about 123 kilometers or 76 miles southwest of Negril Point, or 250 kilometers or 200 miles west-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica. The system is moving towards the northeast near 22 kilometers per hour or 14 miles per hour, and additional acceleration toward the northeast is expected through the weekend. The center of the system is expected to move across Jamaica later today and over southeastern Cuba, the southeastern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos Islands on Saturday. Now, the poorly organized system continues to be a significant rainfall producer, and flooding is expected to continue, mainly over southern and eastern parishes today and tonight. Landslides should also be expected as a result. All small craft operators, including fishers from the Keys and Banks, are advised to remain in safe harbor until all warning messages have been lifted and wind and sea conditions have returned to normal. A family of 5 in Bull Bay, St. Andrew is counting their losses after heavy rain last night. But as you will hear in this report, it's the ongoing roadwork in the area that is being blamed for the flooding. Our reporter Dwayne Anderson visited the area and filed this report.
And if it is, one family here in Bull Bay is paying dearly. This family has lived here for nearly 10 years without a lot of incident. But since this roadway began construction, their lives have changed. Around midnight last night, things started to take a turn for the worse. And coming to this morning, this is what their yard, their home looks like. They are now facing an uncertain future.
We need help. The Prime Minister needs to come. Them a do plan. Nobody come on the road itself and say, okay, Mass John or Mass Tom, when the rain fall, what happen? We need to know that we know what to do and what measures to put in place. I don't see nobody come to me and say that. But every time something happens, you don't know who to go to. And you don't know who to reach to and where to go. You understand?
Now, persons familiar with construction will be able to tell that this concrete is fresh concrete. The family says last night they took efforts to try to remedy the situation themselves. But it clearly hasn't worked. This is their veranda. The water is almost knee height. They've done their part and it hasn't worked. So now it's over to the authorities.
The stuff them that damage is my settees, clothes, mats and stuff. But that are not even it. When the rain continues to fall, what is going to happen to me? I have to move from here, so but move go where?
So you want the authorities to relocate?
Yes. Them have to relocate me. Them have to relocate me. I can't stay here, so. Because if every time is worse than the time before, you want to hear say one of we drown out here, especially one of the baby them.
The authorities sent this unit to try and create a temporary waterway to alleviate the situation. But is it too little, too late? Reporting from Bull Bay in St. Andrew, I'm Dwayne Anderson for TVJ News.
Now, several areas in Mandeville have been impacted by yesterday's heavy rains. Mayor Donovan Mitchell urged citizens to stay clear of some areas to avoid harm or damage to vehicles.
I want to use this opportunity to ask the people and the persons who are traversing the streets, if they don't have to do so, that they stay home and avoid some of these areas. At least 95% of the retention pond beside the Mandeville Hospital is full. Grove Road is a bit impassable. Run by Bellier School, there is some retention of water there. So I'm going to ask the motorists to avoid that area and to seek alternate routes.
Speaking specifically to the flooding on Ward Avenue, Mr. Mitchell said that the cause of the current flooding has been discovered.
There's an area that we need to have access to, which we are impeded by having access because of some issues. And so we have asked our lawyers, our attorneys, to seek the permission to get the requisite position to go into the property and to have the blockage removed so that the water can run off the roadway at this time.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Rescue teams from the Jamaica Defence Force, JDF, were called into action this morning to assist residents that were marooned at the Holy Crossing in St. Thomas. Now, heavy rains through the night resulted in the community being cut off by floodwaters for some 12 hours. Rescue teams used a helicopter to get the residents out of the area. They were then transported to a shelter in Wheelerfield in the parish. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, is urging persons not to attempt to cross flooded areas. Speaking on Hotline this morning with Emily Shields, Mr. Thompson says they are putting their lives at serious risk.
Because you put your life at danger. Persons who you have responsibilities for, children, elderly, you might be traveling with persons with disabilities. And you also put the lives of our first responders at danger, because you see, we had to, the pilots at JDF had to brave the weather to fly out there, out from Kingston to St. Thomas to try to rescue, and did rescue 24 persons.
The Acting Director General of ODPEM says one shelter was opened in St. Thomas after 24 persons were rescued by the Jamaica Defence Force this morning.
Closed, but we take it based on the situation that happens on ground to make the determination as to when to open. But all the shelter mechanisms have been placed on standby. And so all the shelter managers and everybody has been prepped. So those decisions will be made dependent on what is happening on the ground and based on the situation that is in front of us, and we have map the situational awareness, then we will open those shelters.
And the Jamaica Public Service Company says its teams have been out restoring power supply to customers affected by outages caused by the inclement weather affecting the island. Now, we are now joined by Public Relations Manager at the JPS, Audrey Williams. Hi, Audrey. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashim. Thanks for having me.
Now, what is the latest as it pertains to power outages and restorations across the island?
Right. So our crews are continuing to work to get some of our customers back in. Some of our customers were out due to the adverse weather conditions. We've had situations where landslides have led to trees coming into contact with wires, in some instances breaking the wires and so on. We have roughly 2% of our customers out. That would be approximately 14,000 customers across the island. The majority, though, are in Kingston and rural St. Andrew. So we are working on that. However, our restoration efforts are being hampered by the current condition and in some instances by lack of access. For example, there are 1,200 customers out in Mavis Bank, but there's also a landslide which has caused our crews not to be able to access the area. So those are some of the situations that are hampering us. Based on the meteorological reports that we are having right now, we're expecting conditions across the island to worsen later today, early tomorrow. High probability of flooding, landslides, and so on. So we do recognize that some of those things may impact the electricity network. But our teams remain alert and in restorative mode. So as quickly as we can, as quickly as safety allows and access allows, we'll be working to get our customers back online.
And you just preempted my next question, because I was going to ask what measures are being put in place to protect the nation's grid. Right.
So basically, what we have right now is a lot of our crews, our contractors, they are on standby as we speak. And in as much as they can restore persons, they get out there and they do that. But you do have to appreciate as well that because of the nature of the weather conditions, sometimes it's just not safe for them to actually take out these, to get into restorative action.
All right. Thank you very much, Audrey Williams there, the Public Relations Manager for JPS. It's now time for the Business Minute. The cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages rose by 8.3% for the 12 months to October. For the month of October specifically, prices rose by 0.7%. Statin says the movement was influenced by a 0.7% increase in food prices for the month and a % upward adjustment in the cost for non-alcoholic beverages group. Vegetables, tubers, plantains, cooking bananas and pulses led the increase in food prices. Further afield, a new federal assessment lays out what it calls the economic consequences of climate change. It found extreme weather events cost the U.S. economy nearly $150 billion a year. Weather and climate-related disasters, including floods, wildfires, and winter storms, with damages over $1 billion, are becoming more common. It found such events currently happen every 3 weeks. When adjusted for inflation, they happened every 4 months back in the 1980s. The report concludes the impact of future climate change will be more significant and apparent across the U.S. economy. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top regional story. Caribbean Community CARICOM leaders have ended a one-day historic summit with Saudi Arabia, with both sides calling it a landmark event aimed at enhancing trade and investment flows between the two regions. Following deliberations, CARICOM Chairman Roosevelt Scarrett described the summit as highly successful and enriching. The summit came 2 months after the approval of the Joint Action Plan between the Gulf Cooperation Council GCC and CARICOM for the period 2023-27. And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.